I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your 3-minute cattle market update for Wednesday, March the 15th. And March Madness is all you can say, and I'm sure not talking about basketball, but you look at these grazers, they are jumping all over these light cattle and pushing them up to prices that we haven't seen since those record highs here a few years back, up close to $2 and over $2 in some instances for some cattle weighing right around 500 pounds, what they're really wanting to turn out and graze. I was at a bull sale in New Mexico here today and was talking to a guy, and we were talking about how crazy guys are getting for these grazing cattle, weighing all the way up nearly to 700 pounds. And it's crazier than the purchases that the feeders are making on yearlings to feed those cattle, and that's really saying something, because you don't see that very often. But they are absolutely going all out for these grazing cattle. The gain is really cheap as 40 cents on a lot of those cattle to graze there, so you can cheapen them up quite a bit, but man, they are really stretching out there. The yearling deal is getting good again as this fat market has stayed a lot better than we thought, a lot later in the year. I'm not sure how it's going to slip and fall as bad as the board is indicating it's going to do for this summer. But right now we've held this thing up a lot longer than we thought we would, and built it bigger, so it's going to take quite a bit to tear it down. But the madness, the maddest of the madness things is going on with the difference between the live cattle futures and the cash fat cattle market. That basis there is gigantic. Monday we had the markets were up some, but not really the nearby fats. But then Tuesday down hard. So now we're looking at a more than a $10 basis compared to last week's established market on the high there. And it's crazy that your guys that trade the board, that they're talking about technical weakness and looking at those charts and things. Maybe they need to chart the cash market and then study that, because they're just feeding off of themselves. They're charting what goes on in that board, which you really can't tell anything about what it's doing, and just feeding off of itself, which all of that, it's just kind of fear mongering. If you think it's going to go down, then it's going to go down if enough people think that, and the same is true on going the other way. But maybe chart some guys that are working with supply and demand, some fundamentals. Maybe chart that and then study that and see if you can find the gaps and the head and shoulders and the averages on that, because they're finding weakness when they're more than $10 below the market. And it's just crazy, and the powers that be, the guys that have a lot to do with the cattle business and do a lot of hedging, they threw a fit whenever things were getting really volatile, and we haven't seen that volatility as bad as it was there a year or two ago. But they're not really saying too much about this big basis, because most of them are cashing in on it. But if you look down the road for the cattle that they're trying to hedge, it's running so far under where the market probably should be. We don't know what that is, so we're going by the board. But if it's as far off down the road as it is right now, or when it matures, how can you tell? When you're trying to hedge cattle on a board that's just a little bit over $1, when you know darn well that it's going to be a lot better than that by then. And so, you know, how's that basis going to work when you start out that far under the money? But you just look at your board so far this week. Live cattle futures April contract Monday was up 15 cents. Wow, after you gained all that ground last week in the face of that big basis. Then Tuesday down $1.42 with your April live cattle at 116.32. Quite a bit of money there on the table to pull off. Feeder cattle futures for April Monday was up $1.42, and Tuesday down 67 to end the day on Tuesday at 127.42. We've had some fat sell again. Some weak sisters have no confidence in this market, just like we did a week ago, and then we come in with these guys that showed all kinds of strength digging in and just demanding at least steady or better money on the bulk of the sales. But we've seen some lower sales. And don't kid yourself, these feedlots, the guys that sold them, didn't call in to anybody and report them. This was all gathered through mandatory price reporting. And if it wasn't a law, I guarantee you nobody would have found out about those besides the guy that sold them in the back of the bottom. But a few sales from 122 to 124 with a more than 2-week delivery in Kansas. So there's the guys trying to cut everybody's throat, selling those cattle because they think that there's no way we can hold this market with that big basis there. And I didn't think so last week either. I've got more confidence this week, and maybe I shouldn't, but I think that the Packers have tipped their hand, that they need cattle. They're in the black, even though the fat cattle market has been on the rise. So has box beef cutout values. We're getting an early spring demand for grilling meat, and they're making money. They got the change speeds turned up. They need cattle. They're short of cattle right now. We may have some cattle coming in May and June, but right now they need cattle. We got more people selling negotiated, which that's the key. Sell more cattle negotiated, and then you've got a market to work with. All you guys that do your RTMV, all you guys that do your contracting, all that stuff. Sell more cattle negotiated, whether it's on the Fed Cattle Exchange, which nobody's supporting that, and here it is helping our market so much, giving us an idea of what's going to happen middle of the week and getting your packers involved in the market. The more negotiated trade we have, the healthier the market's going to be, the more leverage you have to sell your cattle. Box beef cutout values have been kind of mixed, but haven't lost much ground here early this week and have gained a whole lot the last 3 weeks. Slaughter's holding in there real tight to what it's been the last few weeks. And you look at some feeder markets there. Early in the week on Monday, Oklahoma City had 6,600 head. You see how these runs are lightening up. Steady to $4 higher on all classes there, selling awful good. Joplin Regional Stockyards had 7,000 head on Monday, sold their steers $2 to $5 higher. Heifers about steady. A lot of guys in there buying grazing cattle there. But you look at Joplin there on Monday, they had a big string of big cattle, 2 loads, 94 head of steers weighing 1037 there. And that was on Monday, bring 120.75. That's awful good price. Those cattle don't have to have a lot of time on them, and guys are just thinking, hey, the market's at 125 or better now. Maybe I could get these things finished out before it completely evaporates, and it's looking more and more like that, although we're getting no help at all from the board or anybody on the long side. But, talking about fire disaster relief, I know if you guys aren't under a rock and you get any kind of social media, you've just seen the load after load after load of hay that's been coming into the country, part of the country, the Texas Panhandle on the east side, your western Oklahoma, southwest Kansas there, south central, just anywhere they had those big fires. They've got a lot of distribution points, collection points for that hay. Just unbelievable. Absolutely the best industry in the world. The way that people, stick up for each other, help each other, give them a hand when they need it. And the outpouring of generosity is just something that just puts a lump in your throat. On top of that, we've got all these cattle auctions, which have just gone out of their way to try to raise money to help them. The guys probably have enough hay right now. What they need is money. They need fence and equipment. We've seen Cargill Industries donate $50,000 worth of fence and supplies. That was great. You got to give a shout out to those guys there. Joplin Regional Stockyards raised $28,000 at their donate sale there with Jackie Moore and the Stockyards donated a steer and then sold it and just kept selling it again and taking donations. Decatur, Texas, $57,000. That's not a high volume market right there, but some guys dug in their pocket and come up with some money. $57,000 going directly to disaster relief. Had other sales in Holton, Kansas, Tulia, Texas, Elk City, Oklahoma, and coming up later this week and into next week, just what LMA had posted there. It was Emporia, Kansas, El Reno, Oklahoma, Sterling, Colorado, Wichita Falls, Texas, Woodward, Oklahoma, Dunlap, Iowa, Montgomery, Alabama, Imperial, Nebraska, Pratt, Kansas, Cherokee, Oklahoma, the Oklahoma City Stockyards, Floydada, Texas, find a sale barn that's going out of their way to help with some of these disaster relief funds, and go in there, and you don't have to buy the steer that they keep donating back. Just holler up there, I'll give a couple of hundred. It just, everything helps, and it's just the right thing to do. But that's 3 minutes, and we'll talk to you on Friday.